What's up guys? In this video I'm going to turn the scene from this to this, basically making a scene more visually appealing. If that sounds interesting to you, smash subscribe and let's continue with the video. So another way to get better graphics is with playing with the lighting in your scene. So to just enable lighting, the lighting window, go to your window tab and go to rendering and click on lighting. Drag it to a better accessible position, and now to enable all this real-time global illumination, just click on new lighting settings, and once you do that you'll see a slight difference, and click on real-time global illumination. This basically increases your lighting and your shadows, whichever objects are static in your scene. So whatever objects that are static in your scene, like you know that they won't move, just click on static, tick the box right here in the inspector of a particular object, click on static, and now you can even do mixed lighting, but I'm going to keep that on now. And if you're going for a real, like just for a scene, a small scene, I suggest you to go like the values, keep it high. But if you're making like a big game, don't yeet these values to the maximum. It's gonna be really heavy on your frames, and better frame quality I think is much better than just getting amazing graphics. So keep that in mind. But the light mapper settings, keep from progressive CPU to GPU. GPU does a better job than the CPU. And yeah, now just play with these values which you feel is better. Some don't give that visual effect, most of them don't. So before we proceed to environment lighting, I forgot to mention about your auto generate. So once you have pressed real-time global illumination, real environment, or mixed lighting, you gotta click on auto generate or generate lighting, or else whatever you have done here won't be applied on your scene. So remember to click the auto generate or the generate lighting button in your lighting setting. Now let's move on to environment. So now you have real-time shadow color, and you can choose whatever color you want. So I prefer this light blue color, and it will be applied as soon as this global illumination pre-processing is done. And your sun source, just drag in your directional light, already dragged it there. And your environment lighting, change it to color. I feel it gives much more better options than the skybox. The skybox just gives you the intensity, doesn't do much. So go to color, pick a color you like. I'm gonna go for a bright yellow. So I think this is fine. And now you can play with the resolution, like pick it very high or low. I'm going to keep it at 256. I think that's standard. And I think that is it for the lighting. And now we're going to put, oh yeah, one more thing I forgot to mention is your fog. So if you put fog, yeah, that's too much fog. Play with your density a little bit. You don't want so much. Wait. Yeah, change it to linear, and you want to ask like where do you want it to start, like as soon as you start you want to see fog or not. So I'm going to put it as 50 and end at 500. And yeah, now that's better. Or yeah, I think 50 is fine. And now change your color. I think this light blue goes very well, so that's fine. And yeah, I think now we are done with the lighting. Of course, it's your wish if you want fog or not. This fog just adds a bit more realism, you know. but you can always play with the values. It depends how you play with your values, and you'll get some good results. So another way to just increase your graphics in your game or make it a bit more visually appealing is by adding reflection probes. And what they do is just fine tune the reflections or just refine it to make it much better and make it look much more appealing. And it's very noticeable, especially if I'm doing it in indoor scenes and in where there's a lot of metal. But anyway, let's make one or just put one in the scene. So to make one, or I mean put it in the scene, go to the hierarchy, right click, go to light and click on reflection probe and drag it to a good position. And now change your type to real time. If you've done bake in your light settings, then click on bake and refresh mode every frame. And I'm going to do on individual faces, intensity to 2, and do box projection to make it better in the reflections. And now if you want to apply it to your whole scene or whatever your scene consists of, click this box here called edit bounding volume, and now you can just expand it. Just click on these, hover over these dots and drag them, and now you can just drag it all over your scene. And I'm telling you guys, just make one indoor scene with a lot of metal and you can see this creates hell of a difference, I'm telling you. And now that it's done, we are done with reflection probes. The last thing we're going to do is add post-processing, and that changes your whole scene. So guys, the last thing at least to do, like to increase your graphics in your game, is by adding post-processing. And if you do not know what is post-processing, is basically adding like image filters, but we're doing it to games. So yeah, that's exciting. So to do that, we're going to go to our package manager and install the post-processing package from the Unity's registry. Once you install it or update it, go back, go to your camera of your scene. So this is my camera, and then just make a new layer called post-processing, and then apply it to your camera. Then go and add a component called post-processing layer, and then here you put your layer as post-processing. Now both your main camera and this layer is synced together, so now it'll add the effects on your camera. And you remember I told you're not going to add anti-aliasing to player or quality in the project settings because we're going to do it in post-processing. So here anti-aliasing to temporal anti-aliasing or TAA. Yeah, leave it to default. And then we're going to add a component called post-processing volume where all our effects are loaded in it. So here is global because we want to apply it to our whole scene. And then we're going to do new profile, and on this profile all the effects are going to be added. So if you just click on add effect, click on Unity, you can add ambient occlusion. So just click on this arrow and then click on all of them, and you can just go from multi-scale to scalable ambient. This way, wherever in the scene you have edges where shadows are not made, it's just going to make the shadows. You can just up the intensity, as you can see. Don't go fully overboard. It's going to look like this. So I'm going to put 1. You can change the color if you want. I think this is fine. And then after that, yeah, we just enable all of them. Sorry. Enable all, so you can play with the radius. You can see now it has a bit of depth or like shadow to all the edges in your scene. And now we can add more effects, like now we can go Unity, add auto exposure, and this just increases your brightness of your scene. So just click on and then enable all. And this is just your brightness of your scene. So I'm gonna click on this. This is fine, I don't want more than this. And then you want progressive or fixed, that depends upon you. And then we can add one more effect like bloom. Bloom is just the intensity of your directional light or sun. So bloom, you don't want it to be very intensive, but you can see what it does. If I just increase it, you can see it's like the sun, it's like the, what you say, light from the sun. So you don't want it too much. And then you want your threshold. Then you have your soft knee. These are just playing with your values. Whichever you feel that makes your game look pretty, just keep that at that value. And then you can even set the color of your bloom. So I want it to be a little bit yellow or orange type. And don't turn on your fast mode. You do not need fast mode. This is for your phone. And then we're going to move on to another effect called color grading, and this can really just ruin your game or make your game amazing. And just click on all, and you can go for the aces, and now you can change your temperature to either warm or cold. So I want a more warm scene, and you can even do with your tint, but with green to purple. Then here you can do again your brightness. Yeah, don't play with the value so much. So I'm not going to put any color filter. You can play with your hue, bit saturated, and contrast. Too much contrast is not good, so we'll put a little bit. And here you can change your colors of your game. But you have to be really careful, or this can just really ruin your game. So be careful of that. And this is your lift, gamma, or gain. You can see these are the values you can play with. I like a bit more bright. Gain, a bit more bright. Lift. Yes, and that's fine. And now we can even go for a next one, which I think is important, is vignette. Many people like this effect. It basically, the corners of your screen are more darker. So if you go for like black and just increase it, you can see it becomes like an oval or like an eye. So you can add like a little vignette and add like blue. So it's very subtle, people won't notice it as much. So like that. You can even add the roundness, how round you want it, the smoothness of your vignette, or you can even intensify it more. It's all up to you. And there are even more like lens distortion, grain just adds like noise to your whole thing. So as you can see, the more high the value, just becomes more, has more noise to your scene. This can be useful for like 90s TVs. You can see there's a lot of noise happening, so this can be useful. But for this, I don't think I need it. And you can even add depth of field or motion blur, which I feel will do really well. Motion blur to get some little more motion when you're moving around. So you can make the intensity a little bit less. And then you can add depth of field, but this one you have to be careful, or else it can blur some of your objects out. Just be careful of using depth of field, but I'm going to off it for now. Now if you just play a game, you can see now there's a considerably big difference on how the game looks. And you can see post-processing plays a big role, and you can see fog, everything plays a big role. Your game looks much better now compared to before. And guys, this is how you make your scene or any game you have much more beautiful or much more appealing. So if you enjoyed this video or you found this video helpful, please like this video, subscribe, share this video to a friend who is in need of it, and until then, see you in the next video. Bye bye.